Our next speaker has more than 25 years of experience in the consumer sector as operator, founder, president, CEO, CMO, board member, consultant, electronic retailing specialist. She began her on-the-job training as a serial entrepreneur at the age of 17, and over the years, Amilya has started, grown, and turned around over a dozen multi-million-dollar companies and brands. She's been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show, as well as NBC, CNBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, Fox News, Fox Business, and multiple magazines such as People, Time, Inc., Entrepreneur, Forbes, and Family Circle. Please join me in a warm welcome to Amilya Antonetti.
I started my first business at 17, and I sold it at 19, and then graduated high school. Small business is what I dream every day. I love everything about small business, and I firmly believe that it's the backbone of this country. So to date, I've had a little over 53,000 employees. And I always say that business would be really easy if it wasn't for the people. It's the people part of this that is always the wild card. It's the people part of it that becomes so frustrating when, as visionaries, we can see what we want in our head, but we don't necessarily end up delivering it. What I've done over all of these companies and 53,000 employees is create a human behavior system which answers the biggest question and the biggest obstacles that we have as business owner, putting the right person in the right role, doing the right task underneath the right reward. If you could simplify that, your business would not only grow, it'd be more pleasurable. But we spend a lot of time and effort and energy and money trying to get the person into the right role. And based on your personality style is where the disconnect comes in. And I'm hoping to demystify that for you today. Your skills and your ability will only take you so far. After 17 different businesses, and I've done over 1,000 turnarounds, it is the case all the time. When I go into a business, wherever the leader is where the business is. So until you can push yourself out of your comfort zone and gain the next level in skill and the next level in tools, the next level in mentorship, the company will flatline and eventually decline. Some of you are going to take that ball and run with it, and some of you are going to fight the system, and some of you have been fighting the system for a long time. I'm going to get into a little bit of the human behavior part of this, but what I am telling you is, even for myself, it's when I push myself out of my comfort zone, I create my internal conflict, is when I've had the biggest successes in my life. What I've been able to unlock, especially in crisis management, is that your relationship with conflict is what determines your growth and your value. What I'm going to try to cover today quickly is how to raise your ceiling, how to motivate the people around you, because what happens is when you don't escalate to the next level, nobody underneath you moves. So if one of your frustration is that your team and the people around you are not excelling to their next level, the reason for that is because you haven't moved to your next level. Everything is tied together. So even in a crisis, when I go into a crisis, I have 120 days and a limited budget to turn an entire company. It doesn't matter if I go into a company of 5 people or if I go into a company of 500,000 people, the process is still the same. The conflict is still the same. And within 120 days, we see all kinds of things from retention to double growth and all that kind of stuff. What I want to be able to teach you today is what it is I'm doing in my companies so that you can go home and do it yourself. Learning how to properly bring in a person and assign them those right tasks. It's what makes hiring easier. Once you color code the task at hand, you know exactly what personality you need to hire in order to accomplish those tasks. Once you have the DNA of the personality type, it gets then overlaid with what I call your color code. The color is what motivates somebody to do something. This is the most invaluable part I have inside my company. It's built into every process and every procedure and every task. And let me explain why. The color, which determines somebody's motivation, is what shortens the window between getting something done and how it gets done. It takes you from where you are to where you want to be. The old way of running a business is that people do tasks based on job description. You're the XYZ of the company, and therefore you do all these tasks. But as the internal margins get squished and time becomes more and more valuable, creating the task and assigning it to the color that does it easily. Each color, each personality type, contribute to an overall sustainable success. Learning how to properly bring in a person and assign them those right tasks. It's what makes hiring easier. Once you color code the task at hand, you know exactly what personality you need to hire in order to accomplish those tasks. So in my system, everybody who applies goes through a personality test, goes through this system, and I then match that hire directly to the tasks. Same thing for myself. When problems land on my desk, I deliberately incorporate the 3 other colors to help me brainstorm the solution. Because I know for me, I'm only going to answer it in red thinking. And red thinking is only 25% of success. I have been blessed that I've had the ability to interview some of the top leaders. Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, Martha Stewart. And when you talk to people who have high level of success, what you find is a formula called 50-25-25. 50% of their time is spent thinking. 25% is then in their planning, and then 25% is in the execution. And as small business owners, because time is so precious, we go from idea to execution so quickly. And that means we miss 75% of the formula. And without the circle of all 4 colors on these tasks, you're missing the results. You're missing the solution. The way succession plan happens successfully is by melding the personalities and allowing people to speak the same language. And when you can speak somebody else's language, everything else changes. Everything. Every task, every hire, every fire, every relationship with money. Why do most people argue about money? It's because they're speaking 2 separate languages, and the message is not landing. One of my favorite quotes is that communicating is not talking. Communicating is landing the message that I intended correctly to the other person. When you're in a tug of war and in conflict, what one person is trying to do is trying to pull you, whoop, that'll hurt, over to their point of view, while the other person is pulling on their other side. The problem is when you're pulling, you're missing the perspective from their point of view. But as alphas, if we can stop pulling, walk to the other point of view, and see their perspective, we can then lead them back anywhere we want to go. But in the tugging, what happens when you tug against the beta is they will tell you, yes, I will do it your way, and then they're going to do it their way. When you tug against a neutral, what it does in a business is it slows down every single task. They come to a screeching halt. The whole mind shift for me, when I came home on the plane, and I realized that what I needed to do was stop trying to spend so much time, energy, and investment dollars bringing my team to where I was, and instead spent the time meeting them at where they were. Everything inside my business and every business I go into today, that mind shift alone frees the company up to grow. It frees the company up to then decide what tasks match the right color. And that's where growth happens. So, do you remember what you were? And you were? Red. So, reds are looking for task-oriented, crossing things off the list, accomplishing, moving forward, task, 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 task. And the orange is more worried about customer experience, the feeling. Why are we doing what we're doing, right? So, does this sound familiar? Right? So the red, right, he's motivated by power and control, right? So in your language to him, if you step on something that sounds like power and control, he's going to push back. It's a natural instinct. He doesn't even realize he does it. Same thing with me. I'm a red as well. So when somebody says, I would say, if you tell me what to do, you've declared war. If you ask me, I'll do anything you ask. So if you said to him, listen, I would really like if you could today, answer this, this, and this, he'd do it. But if you go, listen, you have to, he'd be like, oh, no, 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 right? Right? You see this in the dynamic?
That's a myth.
It's a myth.
I'm teasing.
There you go. Right. So when you talk about tasks, like there's always like a myriad of things that have to be done in the business, right? Just it does. But there's certain tasks that for him is easy. He doesn't even think about it. There's no emotional response, and he really doesn't care. He just wants to cross it off. You, being the orange, you do care. So you're going to move at a slower pace just because you are consciously, emotionally, and analytically attached to the task. You're going to go slower. So when you guys come together with the task list for the day or the task list for the week, and again, literally, I would go through your company, and every task I would color code. And I would say, okay, these tasks that are red, right, call and tell this person no, negotiate this, all the bearer of bad news. He doesn't care. He just wants to get it done. Those should always be on his list. And the things that actually have quality control, the things that actually are going to sustain or you need to repeat, should always be on your list. And that's how they should be divided. Same thing as you go through with the purple and the green, right? They just show up differently. So what's going to take somebody twice as much time, you should put it in the area of fun. So literally, in the red personality, that win, that competitiveness, that he feels good when he's doing those things. You feel bad, right? So in your energy bucket, right, there's only so much energy in a day. If you give her red tasks, you're draining her. Now, you guys are in business, but then you also have this thing called your personal life. If you've drained her by day, she has nothing left at night. So here's what also I know about you guys, right? So a rabbit and a sheep, right? You both are neutral, right? Neutral personalities, which means neither one of you really want to cause confrontation. It's not in your DNA. So nobody's going to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm dying on this vine. You're like, you know what? It's been a long day. If I just avoid this, just move it along, we're just going to survive it, right? It's the unspoken list that lives somewhere because you both are neutrals. Now, me and Alpha, if you and I were married, I'd be like, listen, let me tell you about the things you did wrong today. He don't want to do that.
I learned my lesson.
Right, but what happens with two neutrals is some of the deep substance that can cause your company to leapfrog forward or backslide never gets talked about. It never really gets handled. It goes on that little mystery list. So in this process, what becomes really, really easy is to set up very healthy boundaries and guidelines so that you can get a little bit of the red out on the table and look at it, get a little bit of the orange out on the table, and then go into your team to find the purple and green. Now you've desensitized the entire topic, right? So I literally go around people's office. They would say, when I go into a company, it looks like Sesame Street threw up on it. Because I turn around and I put little sheep on and a little rabbit, and all the different colors. And what happens is now you look at the topic color-coded. It's not about you and me anymore. It's about this topic at hand is orange. And here's how all four colors want to solve it. And then that island thinking goes away, and you solve it as a group. It changes the movement of the company. Same thing with your relationship with money and wealth, right? Reds have a very, very different connection with money than orange do. So you hear things like, it matters, and you're like, not really in the scheme of things. right? And this is where you see this all the time, right, of what needs to be done now, because in our minds, we will die. Survival, we have to do it. It's a sense of urgency of a 10. Your sense of urgency is a 5. Neither one of these are right or wrong. There is no such thing as right or wrong. It's all. If you don't have all colors, and if you don't have all personalities, you don't sustain. It's just a matter of time.